Welcome back, everyone. So today we are doing a fun project. We're doing an interesting exhaust modification on the 2022 Godzilla 7.3 Ford F-250. So when I was looking into exhaust for this thing, I really want a nice quiet exhaust for towing, and I want a louder exhaust for bumming around town and just letting the old 7.3 eat, you know? And so I said to myself, how can I achieve that? Well, if you'll see, we got the welder out here, my high quality welder. But anyway, what we're doing is we're welding a little Y off of after this first resonator. Okay. We're going to put a pipe in that's going to bypass the second resonator and the muffler and then come into the exhaust right here by the shock, right by the rear axle. I've started to weld that pipe up. I fitted it all yesterday. I got into an all-out war with this freaking truck. Well, really with my welder. I got the old Harbor Freight. She's an old girl. And it used to be actually awesome. This thing ran great, but I don't know what is going on, but I could not get a good freaking bead to save my life. They look okay. I mean, I ground it in some spots. Listen, they're going to be perfectly strong. That's not the issue. I should touch that up. It's a little undercut. But anyway, it's going to be strong. Like, I'm not worried about it falling apart. It's all stainless wire, too, so they're not going to rust. All stainless pipe. It just didn't come out as good as I really would have liked it to. You know, even these that I was doing on the bench, they just, like, it just kept popping and spitting. And I've used this exact setup. And I know what you're thinking. Like, oh, of course you're going to blame the welder. Listen, I don't claim to be the world's greatest welder either, but I've done a lot of exhaust work with zero issues with this welder, on aluminum and stainless pipe, or aluminized and stainless pipe. So, I don't know. It is what it is. It's sturdy, and it'll be leak-free. That's the important part. I'm going to buy a new welder, honestly, and maybe I'll go in and grind some of these welds down someday and clean them up. That's the nice thing. I can always just grind them off. You know, a little tedious, but I can grind them off and fix them and make them look nicer if I'm really that concerned about it. That being said, honestly, some of the factory welds on a factory exhaust, you know, they're all done with machines now, but sometimes they don't even look the best. Look at that weld. You know, there's like a random piece of metal, just, you know, wire just hanging out there. So it's honestly, in that sense, no different than stock. But I want to do better than stock, right? That's not really a bar for me. I want it to look professional and look right, and I want somebody underneath the truck to be like, hey, that guy did a nice job. And unfortunately, to be honest with you right now, that's not what somebody's going to say. So it ticks me off, but it is what it is. I can revisit it at some point. I got to get a new welder and go from there. I might even get my buddy who is a welder over and let him have a crack at it, and just, you know, he's a little bit more talented, very much more talented than I am, so we could do that. But that being said, the project goes on. It's going to be really cool when we're done here. So I got to get my little bolt bin and find some hardware for this baby, and we'll get her bolted up. Welcome back, folks. So this project is really dragging on a little bit. Long story short, the wiring is not going to work the way that I originally thought it would work. The way that this is a mess of wires right now as I'm testing stuff out. The way that this thing works is all it actually does for the valve is it sends 5-volt power, which is these two wires, white and red, to ground. So it literally just touches it off. I don't know if you could hear that. That's how it opens and closes it. So white is open, red is closed. So needless to say, we need to run a relay setup because we need to be able to send 5 volts from power to ground and not the 12-volt signal from these auxiliary switch wires. All right, so these are 12-volt outputs. I already stripped them back. So anyway, we're going to work on doing that today. Okay, so we got a crazy mess of wiring. Obviously, I'm going to clean all this up. I'm just testing it. Relay number 1. Actually, it's relay number 2. That's the closed relay. That's the open relay. Okay. They are wired to the 2 auxiliary switches. So this is open, close, relay, or auxiliary switch 1, auxiliary switch 2. And so all we're doing is we're able to ground this red wire to this black wire, and we're doing it through the relays. Other issue is this little control box is meant to be inside the cab, so we're going to do our best to weatherproof it, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I am a big fan personally of heat shrink butt connectors. Make sure you use the correct size. Make sure you can see that it melted into the wire on both sides, and they will be a really good connection. So that is going from the 2 auxiliary switches to the relays. So now I'm going to mount the relays, and I will show you that. I retaped the rest of the auxiliary wire harness, and I just decided to zip tie it to here rather than, they kind of like bunch it up and tape it again from the factory, but I don't really like that because it kind of kinks the wires. So I decided to leave it long. It's not going to run into anything. It's not going to get hot. It won't affect the function of the vehicle, and you still have room to get to your AC service port. Folks, this project is turning into a bit of a crapshoot. I get it all wired up relatively nicely. I'm putting that in air quotes. You'll see later. It's like fine, right? I can put some wire conduit on it and make it look decent. I think I'm still going to redo it at some point. But I do all that. I go to test it, and it doesn't work. And I'm like, what the frig is going on? Because I tested it all first to make sure it worked before I, solder or, did all the butt connectors and shrunk wrap everything and made it all nice, right? That's what you should do. Well, I did my final test before I put the last finishing touches on it, and sure enough, it doesn't work. So I threw the test light on it, and I realized, I looked, and unfortunately, I think the little control module for the valve is not working correctly. And the only thing I can think of that did it is I sealed the whole thing up with RTV so that it wouldn't get wet, as I showed you. And I guess the RTV might have messed up the board, but that's crazy because, there's circuit boards that are potted in RTV essentially, right? Silicone. Maybe it shouldn't be conductive. I don't know, maybe I created a short or something, so I'm going to go into that little box, pry it open, see if I can figure out what's going on, and if I can fix it, and then we'll have to find a different way to seal it, I guess. I don't even freaking know. This looks like a rat's nest, and right now it kind of is. I had to start taking things apart again. I'm going to test it one more time, just while I came back. It's been a couple hours. I got frustrated and went home. So let's test it again, but I'm pretty sure it isn't going to work. I don't know why it would have magically fixed itself, and if it did, that's a problem in and of itself. Right? So let that stop beeping. Nothing? Nothing. Okay. That should have actuated the valve one way or the other. The valve should be opening or closing from one of those switches. So, with that being said, my hand's in the camera. That being said, we are going to pull the relays back kind of out of the way and get into the box. Okay, so I'm in full mad scientist mode, but we're making some progress. So I had pulled the relays out. This thing is warm. That tells me there's a short in it right off the bat. Both sides of the motor had power, and then there is the positive 12 volt, and then the 5 volt switching wires both have 2 volts. So something got messed up in that. I don't know why. It's weird, but in realizing that this is a 12 volt motor, which makes sense, what I can do is just make this board, get rid of this crap, basically just make that with relays. All right, folks, this is the final product. I got into an absolute war with this thing, but we have our 2 relays here. This is basically creating an H bridge, but it's not really an H bridge because I have the 2 auxiliary switches in the truck going to this. But, I got all nice wire loom and everything. It's not ran quite as clean as I'd like. I didn't plan on running it like this originally. So we're leaving them there for now. They're out of the way. They're safe. They're not going to hit any wires. I put some wire loom on this wire, factory wire, just in case. Honestly, didn't need it, but whatever. That's fine. We can play with that later. We got our ground here. That's okay too. We have our wire for the actual motor, cutoff valve motor right there. I got everything tightened back up. Make sure of that, yeah. Okay, we're good. I did test it, it does work. So I can't believe I'm even saying this, but we're gonna actually take this thing for a drive, God forbid, and see how she sounds. So this thing's surprisingly quiet, which I knew from earlier when I was testing, but let's just see what we think of it. Let's just take it for a little drive and keep an open mind. I can hear it. Actually, she gets a lot louder when you get on it. Doesn't sound so bad, actually. So I'm going to do a remote start. This is with the valve open. Then we'll compare it to what it is stock. and I'm gonna rev it up as high as I can. You can only rev these like 3,000 RPM. I'm gonna leave the camera in the same spot for both videos. This is a warm start, by the way. So here's the final verdict. It is a little bit louder. Is it really louder enough to have justified all the work? Kinda, because you can hear the exhaust, which is nice, but probably not. It is what it is now. So anyway, I really do like this setup now, actually. It's got a nice little rumble. It's still kind of what I would call like a gentleman's exhaust. It's still pretty quiet, but I'm enjoying it. You know, if I want loud and obnoxious, I got the bike, I got the car, the Silverado's still out. Like, I don't need this to be loud and obnoxious. I just wanted to hear a rumble. You know, I paid a lot of money to have 7.3 liters of American V8 goodness. I just wanted to hear it a little bit. And then the beautiful thing is I flip that valve and it's bone stock quiet again. So it's funny because I was just very deflated with the way the whole project went. But after finally getting it all installed and really working with it, I'm really coming around on it, and I do think that I am liking the fact that I did go this route as opposed to just like a stock or off-the-shelf catback system, you know, Borla S-type or something like that. And that's a great option too. I mean, you know, for 98% of people, that's going to make the most sense, right? Just get a nice little rumble. It's not going to be loud enough when you're towing to matter. But for me, towing long distances relatively often, not that I couldn't put up with it. I had for years with the Silverado. It's way louder exhaust, but I just wanted that stock sound towing and the, you know, slightly modified sound bumming around town, just having fun. So I think this gives me that good blend. I'm going to make the outro here. Thanks for watching. God bless America, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.